Welcome to the Channel Surfers. I am John McCabe, co-host of the Channel Surfers, and I'm joined as always by my good friend and co-host, Jeff Lennon. How you doing, Jeff?
John, I'm doing great, man. It's going to be an exciting show today.
Yeah, I agree. Today's a really special show since our guest is one of the most recognized and respected voices in the world of channel partnerships, someone I've followed for years and have a lot of respect for. In his current role as chief analyst at Canalys and in former roles at Forrester and IBM, he spent his career analyzing the trends that shape the future of IT ecosystems. We are really thrilled today to dive into the future of the channel with our very special guest, Jay McBain. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome.
No, we're really honored to have you.
It's not very often you can wear your Hawaiian shirt to an event, but here it is.
You're first, and I love it. Every guest gets on like, oh, I should have known about the Hawaiian shirt, but hey, you're our first. I love it. So yeah, Jeff. So we have a lot of questions. I don't know if you want to get started because Jay is such an interesting and important guest for us.
Well, I mean, first things first. I mean, Jay, obviously, we have a huge audience of I think 73 people right now. So so if you wanted to just kind of give a quick background of kind of where you're at today. I actually told John this morning, I was like, I went back because I've been following you and I came up with an encapsulated, what's been going on for the past, I'll say 90 to 120 days. And I came up with 3 cool topics that I want to hit on, but I wanted you to first kind of introduce yourself. The topics I wanted to get into were really what you're seeing in the whole services and the managed services of how that's reshaping the reseller market for channel. Yep. Obviously, artificial intelligence. I mean, it is the buzzwords of buzzwords, right? And then the other that I was picking up that I thought was interesting is all about the evolving communication and sometimes the overload communication that's happening. So they were kind of the 3 presets that I was hoping we would talk about. But I'll pivot back to you, kind of let you just give a little background of yourself, and then we can kind of start leaning in on some of these topics. Is that fair?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool.
So I've been around in the channel for 31 years. Every day in my entire career, right out of college, has been in the channel, running channels for big companies.
So wait a minute, were you like 12 years old when you started? Because I'm not gonna lie, brother, you're doing great.
I think we're all running the same space, Jay. So
yeah, but the channel can age you, but here we are. So. Yeah, I've been lucky to be a channel leader at big companies like IBM and Lenovo. I was very lucky to be an entrepreneur, build a software company focusing on channels, raise a bunch of millions of dollars and go down that route. And, kind of in the last part of my career here, 8 years has been on analyzing. And that's really who I am as a person. I quantify everything I look at and try to figure out the system beneath things. And try to, connect dots that maybe people don't have the time, because without a day job, I get to spend more time, connecting and collecting data. Awesome. And maybe being able to explain things, less opinion and maybe just more factual based on, talking to big groups of people through surveys and research. And then obviously, mounds of data that make up our global $5.3 trillion industry.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've heard you speak several times at partnership leaders, and the presentation is always, amazing, and the numbers you throw out are just, mind blowing. One thing that's really always stuck out is your expertise on, IT ecosystems and the ecosystem economy. How should vendors rethink the channel strategy to align with that new model of, traditional resell versus primary motion in the ecosystem world?
Yeah, for 44 years, this industry has been kind of obsessed over the point of sale. All the economics and partnering happen at the point of sale, the front end margins, the back end margins, and how partnering has kind of been framed up in that resell margin. But you go back 44 years and very few partners would ever stick up a hand and say, hey, all I am is a cash register. Thank you for recognizing me as such. Most partners would raise their hands and say, no, I'm a managed service provider. The fact that I might be collecting money on your behalf, isn't the primary part of my job. And by the way, it's not even something I really want to do or doesn't drive my economic model for profitability. But if I'm an integrator, if I'm an ISV, and if I'm a consultant, I mean, there's 20 different partner types on a Venn diagram behind me here.
Yeah.
I'm all these partner types. It's no, I'm not a cash register, but that's how you've, built the model. And right now you see that model changing quite significantly, where money is, how it changes hands, whether it goes direct or whether it goes through a marketplace, whether it goes through traditional distribution-led resale, whichever way it goes is only one part of the customer lifecycle. And the average customer lifecycle, which we're getting obsessed about now, has 7 partners that they trust. One of them might be a reseller, but there's a managed service provider, there's an integrator, there's ISVs, there's all kinds of other agencies and brokers and other people that they trust. Yeah. So as a vendor, all I can do is think about every customer in my TAM. Right. And I know my CEO and I know my board is walking around with the TAM number. All I can do is walk around with the service available number and the service obtainable number to say that we need to be in more deals. And the only way we're going to get into more deals is by better surrounding the customer in the 28 moments before they make the decision. And how do we retain that? How do we upsell, cross-sell, enrich that? Well, we have to be there every 30 days forever. So if I can better participate with the 7 partners that the customer trusts the most, I can be in more deals and I can win larger and better and bigger deals and ones that go on and create customers for life.
That 7 partner scenario you just highlighted, I remember hearing that from you. And I went to my sales team, my CRO, my CEO, and I told them, because how sales teams are reluctant to go a channel. They're looking for excuse for value. And I said, listen, a customer has at least 7 partners they deal with. So don't get spun up on like how many partners, you're working with. You might have to work with multiple ones, like a service partner and a reseller and an SI, like you mentioned. And it kind of opened their eyes a little bit to say, okay, that's good. And now the company I'm consulting for now, we have an approach where we're not just reseller only. We go after service partners. We go after very focused partners that are like specific to data security and who understand how we operate and how they can wrap their services around us. So that little stat right there always rung true for me, and I try to highlight that to the sales teams.
Yeah, and with sales teams, and this is the big change, is let's just disconnect from this obsession over how money changes hands.
Yeah.
Your sales team, the best sales teams in the world, shouldn't be motivated in one way or the other. The only way they should be motivated is to close the deal. Yeah. If the money, again, flows through a marketplace or flows through a reseller, if it flows direct, it really doesn't matter.
Who cares? Exactly.
Who cares?
That's right. Yeah, money's money.
Once you get over that, we got to go win the deal. It's now there's 28 winnable moments to go win the deal. Now think about 81% of your customers who now start with a Google search or now a ChatGPT search. And then based on the results there, they start getting triggered into ebooks and podcasts like this one. They start getting into, learning more. And then, mid-journey, about moment 10 or moment 15, they might get more consultative and start paying for advice to the people they trust.
Yeah.
The design and architecture work. If you're not being mentioned in every one of those particular moments, your chances of flying in as a salesperson and sending a cold email or a cold call and jumping into that, mid-journey conversation is pretty much zero. And good salespeople know that.
Yeah.
But what if you were mentioned in that ebook and the podcast mentioned you? And then the customer's already heard your name 3 or 4 times. And then the consultant comes in and says, no, here's what the 7-layer stack is going to look like. And you're already named in the stack. The designers, architects come in and you're already plugged into the stack. So that's what gets funneled into the point of sale. So as a salesperson, all I'm doing is orchestrating all these co-selling, co-marketing moments, the 28 of them, to win more deals.
And building trust along the way, right? That's that near-bound theory. Like you're building trust, getting close to the buyer through however many channels you need to get close to the buyer, right?
You're surrounding that buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And most salespeople now are selling into subscription models or consumption models. So really winning the deal, that money changing hands, is only the first 30 days with the customer.
Mm-hmm. And
now, salespeople are being pushed on not only renewing that customer for the first few cycles, but enriching, upselling and cross-selling. Wouldn't it be great to be connected to the managed service provider who's trusted every 30 days in that account? Being connected to the implementation folks, the integration folks, all again, the seven partners that the customer trusts. If I'm surrounded in every one of those renewable, retainable moments, enrichable moments, I'm getting mentioned again, not only in the current light, but here are the new AI layer. Here's the new thing. Here's why you want to invest more to even get a better outcome. This is how you win today. And the best platform vendors, the best companies in the world are the ones using these surround strategies or near bound strategies or ecosystem led growth strategies. I mean, whichever way you want to call it, it's leveraging these 7 partners.
Yeah, I love that.
Absolutely. So, it's funny because one of my topics was, or at least one of the things that I pulled up was the whole managed service piece. And I apologize because you just did a talk with somebody where you're talking about the transition of the managed services business and the fact that it's $1 trillion opportunity right now. And so and you talked about some things in there, and I wanted you to kind of share for our, what we're talking about, which is talk about the transition that you see from going from the reselling to the managed service. You just touched on it. That's why I started nodding in my head when you were talking. I'm like, okay. So there's this transition that is happening, and it's happening in real time. And for the people on the outside, it looks like it's happening slow. For people like myself and John, like I'm seeing it happen in real time, and it feels pretty fast. And like you said, AI is a component of that. But what do you see as far as that transition from reselling to managed services and the impact to the whole channel partner ecosystem?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to our opening statement is resell as a thing is going to decline pretty rapidly.
Right.
And there's a bunch of reasons for that. One being a new millennial aged buyer with different buying criteria and things, growth of marketplaces. But really the growth of in the AI era, which will be consumption and micro consumption businesses, those aren't resold. Those like your utility company. I say that, you don't buy Netflix from the cable guy in the white van. You buy it as a subscription directly with the company. Even big companies like Microsoft have gone to their biggest resellers in the world and said, while software ate the world 15 years ago, AI is now eating software. And it's not eating the software itself, other than making it headless in a lot of cases. It's actually eating the pricing model. And we're going to move from a lot more subscription-based, which is human-based subscriptions, $150 a person, to AI that's replacing people in some cases and automating and creating workflows. You can't charge that up against a person. You're going to charge $1 per thing, $2 per thing, which is going to be micro consumption. Yep. And there's no chance in the world that when you're buying $1 per thing on a consumption model, that's going to be somehow managed by a reseller or a distributor. So just keep in mind the next 5 to 10 years of our industry, the consumption and micro consumption models is where it's going to kind of all end up. And the biggest hyperscalers and the biggest SaaS companies, and all of them are moving this direction. And this is really well positioned for a managed service provider who's with the customer every 30 days forever. And how they're going to consume technology, and then how they're going to manage and secure and do all the things. This is why 82% of the customers in the world now use managed services. Why managed services is now $608 billion this year. And that's 1.5 times larger than the SaaS industry overall. It's 1.5 times larger than the hyperscalers all combined. Not just the big 3, but Alibaba and IBM and Oracle and all the way down the list. So this is a massive industry. Almost every customer now uses it, and it's growing faster. It's growing in double digits at that size of an industry. So that's this every 30 days forever surround model of why every vendor in the world needs a managed services and an MSP strategy.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's a situation where there's just not enough bodies to fill seats for any size company, and the whole managed service play solves that problem. And it can be affordable, it can be less stress, but I think there's just this like lack of talent to fill the seats that is driving this MSP business and growing it. And I've seen it for years. I was floored, I don't know, maybe like 6 years ago when Deepwatch spun off from GuidePoint and got like $24 million out of the gate for Series A to create the company. I was like, wow. And that's when I really took notice and started really driving MSSP. I'm a really big MSSP program guy. So what you're saying really is, it doesn't surprise me, but it's just the numbers are amazing.
Yeah, and sometimes as a customer, you're driven to outsourcing by what you just said. It's not the amount of bodies; it's the talent.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
cybersecurity was a big boon to the managed services industry because getting access to cyber talent is hard enough for an MSP or MSSP.
Yeah.
Can you imagine an end customer? You're competing with the hyperscalers. You're competing with the big SaaS companies. You're competing with even the big companies in town, the big bank and the big government agencies for these
Yeah.
big dollar jobs. And it gets to a point where even if you could afford the big dollar job, you're not going to attract the talent.
Yeah.
The talent is going to go want to work on big problems and probably project based, working on some of the biggest problems across industry and things. So they'll end up at an MSP. Or they're going to end up working for Microsoft or Google or CrowdStrike or something else. So now AI has put another layer on this.
Yeah.
Trying to find a certified high competency person in OpenAI or Anthropic or Gemini or any of the large language models today.
Yep.
Can you imagine in your local city, local town, the companies trying to compete for that talent that could go easily work for, you look at Mark Zuckerberg hiring people on multi-billion-dollar pay packages. Like times are good right now. And again, your customers are not going to find that talent and you're going to struggle to find that talent and be able to afford those rates. But this is where the point of outsourcing, on-demand type of services, on-demand talent, and you can buy it when you need it. And you don't have to, have somebody sitting on the bench at your company costing you $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, because that's the going rate for their skills.
Well, I was going to say, even to that point, I just literally had a conversation 2 days ago with a client, prospect, suspect, whatever you want to call it. And we were talking about a very well-known product. And, the challenge he had, and his analogy was, it's like me buying a NASCAR. I know it's a top of the line. It's a really sleek vehicle. It's super fast. He goes, I'm going to drive it around the track at like 50, 60 miles an hour. I can't use it the way that the vehicle's intended. So I need to get somebody in here that can do it. Then to get that person in, like you said, put them on the bench and manage them. He goes, I would rather I just bring me it and then manage it for me and manage it at that high performance so that I know that it's being used to its nth degree to do what it's designed to do, because I won't be able to. And then if I lose that person, now I'm in the hole. Like, so they're already looking at it like it's a necessity at this point because of what you just said. So,
well, you remember if we date back ourselves in this industry, I mean, the first ticket to a six-figure job, if you go back 30 years, was to be a C&E with NetWare. And then it transitioned a few years later, the ticket to a six-figure job, which back then was, a lot of money.
Sure.
But the ticket back then was an MCSE, to come into Microsoft's world. But over and over and over again, into cybersecurity and now AI, now the ticket to a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 job is building out these competencies in these models at the level that no company, other than maybe the biggest banks, biggest Fortune 500 companies, would be able to afford and keep busy.
Yeah.
So the idea is to compete for that talent across MSPs and obviously system integrators, global system integrators. And it's always going to be this next breaking edge technology, which is your ticket to that next, high paying job. And the competition for these resources is going to continue, managed services growing at double digits for the next at least 10 years, if not longer.
Yeah. It's super. It's escalated. To your point, it's escalating at such a rate. I'll date myself, and I was a little angry at my wife. I actually had the book. My first MCSE, the book was MCSE Plus. Literally had Plus Internet. It was like, what's the Internet, Jeff? And I'm like, Al Gore invented it. You're going to be amazed.
It's going to be great. It's going to change everything.
So actually, as we kind of transition this conversation, if it's okay, I'm just kind of curious. So I like I said, I went out, I was doing a little bit of research, looking at what's going on with AI. One of the things that I found really thought-provoking, like a lot of your stuff is very insightful, but I thought it was very thought-provoking. And we just did a session with Intro that has a PRM, and they're dovetailing in a lot of AI stuff. But what I found really interesting in one of the write-ups that you did, and I think it might even been a talk, was it's great to have all this AI, but are you actually listening to what the partners need, to what the channel is looking for? And are you truly listening to the feedback to develop those AI solutions? And I don't want to plug the other product, but they just came out with something, and it was all about the help desk kind of thing, and getting support, which was driven by their partner feedback. So I was just kind of curious, like, what are you seeing in that evolution right now? And what, when you said that they're not listening, is it people are just creating things with nothing behind it? It almost reminds me of the internet bubble to a degree. I've mentioned that before. Where people are just spinning stuff up, not really looking at what they're trying to do or the problem they're trying to solve. So what are you seeing from your perspective with how that's driving the strategies and some of the AI solution add-ons for products out there?
Yeah, and internet is a great source because back in the mid '90s, we were all kind of, and I was at IBM at the time, betting everything on e-commerce and things.
Oh yeah.
But we kind of felt even in the mid '90s that there's probably a company coming along. Maybe they're named after a rainforest in South America that could in 20 years become larger than Walmart. And we remember when Walmart replaced all the Main Street players in our town, and we got so mad at them that now this year, by the way, 2025, Amazon is bigger in revenue and people than Walmart. So amazing. It took that long, but Amazon became that biggest retailer in the market, and that was the original vision in 1995. So if we kind of take the 2025 version of AI and say, oh my goodness, I think that every employee, every role in business can be augmented, and many of them could be replaced. So what does that mean? What's the next companies that are going to come along? And 20 years from now, we'll be doing the same podcast, looking back and saying, we had an inkling that e-commerce would be that big. Well, we now have an inkling that AI is going to revolutionize this industry. It's not a trend. It's not a something that we would have looked back like Internet of Things, or we look back at blockchain, or we look at the metaverse. And every year or two on the hype cycle, you get these things, and it's going to be the next big thing. But AI is on the level that the internet is, and it's on the level that the PC was August the 12th, 1981. Every 20 years ago, we get mobility, for example. We get some major things that are going to break everything. That all bets are off. And in that first era of the PC, Bill Gates became the richest person on earth, and the richest people like Michael Dell and others became billionaires. But suffice it to say, the next era, which is the cloud era, when I looked at Salesforce in 1999, and then later with Jeff Bezos and Amazon, the cloud era created the next generation of wealth. Yeah. Jeff Bezos became the richest person. Elon Musk became the richest person at $300, $400, $500 billion. Well, the AI era is going to create the first trillionaires. And some of them, we don't recognize. Maybe Elon Musk becomes one of them. But we don't recognize who those people are and how they're going to generate that level of wealth. But the fact of the matter, it's going to happen. The train is on the tracks and it's picking up speed. So we take it back into our managed services business and say, maybe I'm not going to be the trillionaire, but how do I, draft off of this era, get out in front of it, and make a multi-million, perhaps a multi-billion-dollar company out of this? It's there for you because this is an ecosystem run opportunity. When Microsoft talks about AI, they talk about a $6.5 trillion ecosystem opportunity. It's not Microsoft's TAM, and they just surpassed $4 trillion this week on the stock market. But they talk about it in the course of, that's part of NVIDIA, that's part of OpenAI, that's part of all the MSPs and VARs and SIs. All of us are going to build this thing out to $6.5 trillion. And that $6.5 trillion is bigger than the entire tech industry is today, which is 5.3. That took 50 years to build. And we're going to double this industry in the next 10 years.
That's crazy.
On the back of AI. And we're already seeing it. If you add up all of the different announcements from governments, from Fortune players, from the big magnificent 7 players, we're already at $2.5 trillion that's been raised and is being spent on this build out. That's half the size of the entire tech industry, hardware, software, and services. And it was raised in the course of maybe a couple of years. Again, you can't understate how large this trend is going to be. This is the next 20 years of our industry sitting here.
Well, Jeff and I have been kind of obsessed with it since Catalyst, and Jeff went and heard all the AI talk, and we had a couple guests on that can talk to it, and we've been bouncing around other ideas about other shows, but like it's just so it floors me how over a course of maybe a 2-year period, how I've seen AI just pop up everywhere. There are companies that are just built on AI and cybersecurity. If you don't have AI in your cybersecurity tool these days, I don't think anyone's going to look at you, right? And if you're at Black Hat right now, I'm sure it's like AI out the wazoo. Yeah. Every company is, shoving AI in your face, but it's just amazing. And I love that the talk track there that, these are the companies that are going to, that are going to be the next trillionaires, the AI pioneers, like the Bezos. That floors me how much that influence is.
Yeah, I just published the list of the world's unicorns, the private companies worth over $1 billion. Over 400 of the 1,200 on Earth are tech companies, but 53% of the new unicorns this year are just AI companies.
I believe it.
They raise themselves to $1 billion, but they're like 4x more efficient than the other unicorns, which are really efficient companies, fast-growing companies on the list. Yeah. So they're using AI. They're using their own cooking. But right. You used an example of a PRM company. That's close to my heart because over my shoulder as well is a map of all the PRM companies and all the channel tech companies in the world. There's 261 of them. They drive $7.5 billion in revenue. There's 11 categories of software, PRM being one of them. But the fact of the matter is all 261 companies, I've sat down with the CEOs, I've looked at their roadmaps. They're all reconfiguring and rebuilding their companies around AI. And they're rethinking the people, the processes, the programs, the underlying technology that runs our industry is actively being rethought today in terms of how that functionality, how we're going to build channel account managers to be superhuman.
Yep.
How we're going to replace operational roles and marketing roles and things like that. And all of that's happening now. And then the technology that's going to run our industry is such a small element of the bigger SaaS industry and software industries and other things. But just like the internet, all 27 industries will change radically. And 5 or 6 of them are going to cease to exist and completely be changed and forever changed. But when we think in 20-year eras, like I laid out the PC era and then the client server era and then the cloud era, you know that over 50% of the Fortune 500 does not last 20 years. So if you go back 20 years from now, 52% of the Fortune 500 no longer exist. Think about all the brands we know and love. Over half of them are not going to survive this 20-year AI era. And these are the biggest companies with the biggest bank accounts to buy their way out of problems. Now, if you're not in the Fortune 500, which pretty much all of us aren't, you're going to be 99.99% of companies. Do you know that in the tech industry, 71% of all companies fail within 10 years? So when we're starting to talk about this AI era and talk about this trillions and talk about NVIDIA as being the biggest company and all these early signals that we're getting, over the course of the next 10 years, it's going to run in kind of 3 segments. The first one is agentic AI, which is rethinking workflows and processes, rethinking the people side. You're either going to become superhuman in your role as you're augmented with technology, or you're going to get replaced. And it's going to be very bimodal. The second part of it is going to be very physical AI. This is what Elon Musk and Tesla and others are banking on, where all the physical industries that could be replaced by AI. The biggest job in America, for example, is a truck driver. Trucks are already running millions of miles, much safer than humans. So you start thinking about that. The second biggest job is kiosk and retail workers. Start thinking about robotics, and you start thinking about self-driving. You start thinking about drones. That's the second era coming in about 5 years. But the promise of AI, which a lot of people aren't talking about yet, is that 99% of the business data on the planet has not been trained and tuned into models yet. It hasn't been introduced to models. And most of the companies that hold this data, airlines, banks, insurance companies, are pretty reluctant to do that, be the first mover with the hallucinations, with the the risk and things like that. But
cost too.
When I say the 10-year arc on this industry is that when 99% of the business data, which is every flight you've ever taken, sits on a Sabre system that was put in the 1970s.
Yeah.
Every banking transaction you've ever made, every withdrawal, every deposit is made on an IBM mainframe put in place in the 1970s. When that chatbot gets educated with every flight delay, with every flight cancellation, and every response you've ever made, it changes everything. And that's the 10-year view of AI. This is more an agentic. It's more than physical. It's when entire industries will be rewritten. The world's $115 trillion world economy, world GDP, gets rewritten. This is an arms race like we've never seen before. And this is where trillionaires get created.
Man, this is crazy. I'm just like, I can't say wow anymore. I'm just like, and I've been reading a lot of stuff you're in, but how you just frame that out. Yeah, you could say it. I mean, look, we've lived through a couple of revolutions, so to speak, right, of technology. We made that joke about the internet, but I've been, as I told John, I've been wrapping my head around this. I've already changed my opinion that I had from 3-4 months ago, like, because I didn't think it was going to be as fast as it is, and it's faster. Yeah. And I didn't think it would be as impactful or beneficial, and it is. One of the takeaways we had from one of our previous podcasts was, obviously, right, if you don't embrace it, you will be replaced. And at first I was kind of like, I don't know if that's going to, no, it's definitely going to happen. But the automation aspect of it, the ability to learn and get better and obviously make less mistakes. One of the big takeaways for me is creating a more frictionless process. I think is just, I think it's kind of overlooked, and it comes back to the communication of what people are doing with AI, but creating something that is understanding what the problem is and then reducing the friction of what that process was, so that it happens more seamlessly. And then when things happen more seamless, what happens? Well, you end up doing it more because it's like, wow, this was pretty simple. This was pretty easy. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out. I was trying to take notes. I mean, I love the fact you throw out so many numbers. I'm writing them down. I'm like, wow, 99.
But let's roll this back to one. If you're a channel surfer, let's roll this back to one number. How do I, in the 6 months or 5 months remaining in this year, going into 2026, how do I go find $1 million in new revenue? I could be an MSP, I could be a consultant, I could be anything in this industry. Yeah. The opportunity's there. And while it's going to be fun to read about trillionaires on the front page of magazines and stuff, how do I make a meaningful impact and make sure that when this era and this industry that we serve, continues to grow faster than any other industry? How do I make meaningful, wealth for my family? How do I employ people? How do I leave a lasting legacy? But let's bring it down. Like, how do I go find $1 million in the next 18 months? That's where we land the plane here. And, whatever we're reading about Anthropic or OpenAI and whatever we're reading about the hyperscalers and stuff like that, I got to figure out inside of that ecosystem. I might be a little planet, little star or something, circling that big sun. But I want to go find my first 7-figure line of business in AI. And then we can talk about making that 2 million, then 5 million, then 10 million, and go finding, maybe there will be a couple of, because guess what? In our industry, MSP, we've created billionaires, several of them now. Yeah. And, maybe we'll create a couple of trillionaires too, but regardless, I want to land, in a place that I'm making meaningful change for myself and others. And that's where I think we all have to focus.
Do you think, I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you think that there are enough MSSPs out there to service everyone, or there aren't enough? Because I'm not really, I see a lot of, MSPs popping up all over the place. Some aren't, long lasting, but some are. But I wonder, is there enough to service everything that, is all the businesses out there?
Well, if you count managed services instead of MSPs, everyone has a different definition of what an MSP is. I've always used kind of 30% of your business is recurring. Yeah, it's never going to be 100% because a good MSP would never be at 100%. But if I use 30% and you're using professional tools, PSA, RMM tools, and things like that, you've built a good, strong business that could be sold. There are 341,000 companies in the world. that have at least one managed services contract.
Hmm.
Those 341,000 companies have an average of 8 people each. That includes all the single owner principals. It includes Accenture, which has 770,000 people.
Yeah.
But understand that 67% of all technology services companies, regardless of which 20 areas, they could be a digital agency, they could be an ISV, have a managed services contract.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just talk about managed services, offering this as a solution to customers every 30 days forever, it's a pretty big industry. 341,000 times 8 is a lot of people.
That is a lot.
So there is enough, and it's growing by double digits. So any VAR that doesn't have a managed services contract is trying to get one, especially in Europe and Asia Pacific, which has been a bit slower to the punch than North America. But trust me when I say those numbers are gigantic. Mm-hmm. And the 82% of end customers who outsource some or all of their IT absolutely have a choice of, good, better, best in terms of who to go to in their local town or city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yes, we have enough capacity. And as that capacity grows, we have enough gravity that's pulling in way more people who see that opportunity as entrepreneurs.
I see some VARs who do get it, and they have their own service, and they have practices around each type of, vertical, technology, right? But I see some that are like, hey, we don't want to do that. We want to outsource it to some of our service partners, which is like, I like that model. I like the model where you can work with a VAR that does their own services. But I see different models, different flavors of it, and for me as a vendor, we don't want to do our own services. That's we don't want to employ people to sit and not have anything to do. We'd rather spin up a partner or 5 or 10 to do it for us. That way, we're bringing in more leads to us for our license, and partner gets the service contract, right? So, but I see a lot of the different flavors with VARs getting into it, and they're smart. The ones that want to do it, they're smart because what you're just talking about, that's where the money is, right? And they're latching on to that.
Yeah, so we get to survey around the world hundreds of thousands of partners, and they're not just getting into managed services. Over half of them are now doing consulting and charging for it. Mm-hmm. Over half of them are doing design architecture work. A third of them are doing implementation work. They look like an SI.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, 44% of them are building software. They're not just fine over on the services side, being one of those 7 partners that are trusted. They want to be one of the 7 layers of the tech stack as well. So when you're buying, cloud, and when you're buying software and things, they want to be in that game too. So the average partner is checking 3.2 boxes right now. Managed services is a really good one. It's profitable, it's sticky, it's highly valuable to investors. Yeah. And it's a great business to be in because you're near the customer every 30 days forever. What a great way to pick up that consulting engagement or other types of work, implementation, integration work, when you're there every 30 days forever.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful business to have as a foundation, but we look at the multiplier effect where there's $6 or $7 available for every dollar of product today. And a good MSP should be looking at all those dollars.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree with that. So we're coming up on a little close to the time. Do you have a little extra time to talk, Jay?
I sure do.
Okay, good. I don't want to, if you're going to another important call, we don't want to hold you up. But, so, one thing I have a question on, how can, going back to AI again, how can vendors responsibly use AI to surface partner insights and drive that the ecosystem orchestration that they long to have, right? How does AI fit into that model?
Yeah, AI, I mentioned 261 versions of how AI could help, in terms of that. But the average partner program is pretty complicated. It's got over 100 elements in it. How you think about, partner strategy and recruitment, how you think about partner communication and collaboration and education, training, certification, competency building, how you think about partner incentives. But right back to the basics. I get to look at 35,000 vendor programs. That's how many channel programs there are in the world today. And I would say that pretty close to 99% of them don't even have good data on their partners. they see their partners as a reseller, as a cash register. Well, the partner themselves don't see themselves that way at all. They just happen to do that as a value to the customer. But they're in doing those 3.2 different things. So there's a disconnect just on the basic data about who your partners are, what they do, and where together you could take them and help them get to the next level, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So, there's a certain, initial just data part of this that AI can play a role today by better explaining your better partners back to the vendors through a system that can better implement these 100 elements of the program and perhaps move money around in that economics of partnering that can double up both sides. That's it completely changes the strategy, the planning, how you do this joint work with a partner, and how you think about yourselves together could be done at scale with AI. And, this is just ideal, partner profiles and stuff like that out of the gate. Working on your TAM, SAM, and SOM. Again, 99% of the vendors I work with can't responsibly, kind of walk through what their available market is underneath their addressable market. So take me through your different buyers, take me through your industry view, 297 sub-industries, take me through 193 different countries, take me through the different segments, 1 to 9, 10 to 24, 25 to 49, 50 to 99. Take me through all the segments from SMB up through large enterprise and government. Take me through the categories. Just in G2 Crowd, we have 2,262 software categories and where you're participating. Take me through the partner elements we talked about. There's 5 different parts of the data here that not only do you not have your available market, but you don't have a strategy about obtaining those markets. The 7 partners that surround every customer that's in your TAM. So there's AI here that's super powered that is going to be delivered through the channel tech stack that we have today, that modern channel leaders, partnership leaders should be investing heavily in. Because in the old days, when I ran channels for IBM and Lenovo and so many legacy programs, they just have a big spreadsheet. It's sorted by revenue, how much was resold by each partner. At some point, you cut it and say, that's my long tail. My top X partners, my top 10% drive 90% of my revenue. I got to treat that right and pour more money, good money after bad, into those partners. And there's just not an understanding of that partner list that's not sorted by resale revenue.
Right.
What if you sorted it by customer trust? What if you sorted it by that opportunity to convert that trust into high value, high retention, high enrichment type of business? You turn that kind of inside out. That's the first rule of AI. Now, second is your channel account managers, people that you do have on your team as you expand, 80% of the time are just out chasing answers, out chasing data that could be just absolutely changed overnight. Start connecting and integrating these data sets, start having conversational kind of chatbots, elevate that account manager to what they should be doing. Right. That joint planning and strategy and doubling each other's businesses next year.
Yeah.
That's, the next view. It's one by one, though. We could talk about a correlation
here. Yeah, sorry. What you just said to me, right? It's that correlation of data. Like, and sometimes you just nailed it. For me, it's like be able to connect the dots, and that is definitely something that I see is lacking. Like it's stuff sitting in front of it, but there's so much data. How do you connect those dots, right?
So as a vendor, I need to do 5 things. Everyone's calling themselves a platform, but there's only a handful of true platform companies, and their valuation on the stock market starts with a T. The fact of the matter is you have to be running these integrations at level. If you're going to be part of a 7-layer stack, you have to be well integrated into all the permutations and combinations of those 7. So there's 250,000 SaaS companies today. In your case, if you're in MarTech or something, it might be 15,000 integrations that you should be chasing and be out ahead of your competitors. Because your buyer now, majority buyer millennial, is an integration first buyer. That's the first criteria of buying. Now, second, I want to build the services and channel partnerships, the 7 people that surround the customer. There's recent research actually that shows it's 9. So that number's growing.
Oh my God.
So I want to make sure that those 7 or 9 partners are saying nice things about me. Early in an ebook or podcast, into a consulting, into design, right when the point of sale happens, regardless of how it happens, but every 30 days forever, I better surround my TAM. So those services and channel partnerships I need to build. If I'm in cybersecurity, 91.6% of it's sold through the channel. I need channel resellers to do that business and be successful. If I'm in MarTech, it's only 10%. So keep it in mind, knowing your available and obtainable markets down to the nickel. Then move over to the alliances you need to build with the hyperscalers, with the big cyber platforms, with the big SaaS platforms. You got to spin into their universes, be one of their key players. You got to build co-marketing and co-selling, co-keeping, co-innovation, co-development muscle. So these are all the things and 5 things that we need to be doing in parallel. This is where AI comes in. To do this at the level that we need to do it, we need to become superhuman. And the tools are happening now. And they're doubling in size and strength every 6 months. It's the time now to do this better and faster than your competitors are doing it.
So man, I wish we had another hour. So I just read something that I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago you had posted in a conversation. And one of the things that came out of that was, and I'm paraphrasing it, so correct me if I'm too far off base, but I believe you said it was 80% of channel partners struggle with the communication that they are being provided with by their vendors, right? Mm-hmm. So if 80% of the channel partners are struggling with that vendor provided information, and we're talking about AI, but what are some things that, because we want to go get that $1 million deal and help them get that $1 million deal. So if 80% are struggling with the information that they're being given, not just getting more information, right? I have an old saying, more isn't better, it's just more. Yep. And being able to figure that out. So what do you see as some of the common communication challenges that are happening? And what would be some things that whether it's from the vendor side or from the partner side, that they can look to do to kind of help sift through some of that based on what you've seen and that information, that data point that you provided?
Yeah. And if you look back over the last 20 years, we've gone through kind of the sales era. We went through a marketing era, but it was a one-to-many. It was kind of this, playing in every channel, playing in email, playing across the phone, playing across social, at events, all the different ways that we can communicate. But the fact of the matter is always one-to-many. AI turned that upside down, and I want it, many to one. So in other words, I want it hyper-personalized and hyper-localized. There's no reason before you send, hit send on that email that you don't read the internet cover to cover and learn everything you can about my company. And the fact that I'm not a cash register and what we actually do for a living, because we're very loud about what we do for a living as we try to be digitally. Mm-hmm. But second, go read about me. I've left a lot of digital trails as well as a person. And you might know that yesterday I just stepped off a Disney cruise. That's why I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt still. But the fact of the matter is, if you can take and read the internet cover to cover, and you're going to pitch me something, don't pitch it, but have a conversation with me. This is the business data today that can be unlocked. Yeah. Some of it public, my LinkedIn profiles and all the digital traces I've left and my company's left, but some of it private. Every deal we've ever done together. The good, the bad, the ugly. Every customer service request, every ticket, everything that's ever come up. You could take that and synthesize that into the next email to me. And our co-pilots could have a wonderful conversation together.
Yeah, it's amazing. I get pinged on LinkedIn just for the channel surfers. I have channel surfers listed on my LinkedIn profile. I don't know how many people come to me thinking that I need SDR help for the channel surfers. And one guy, I was like, listen, you need to research. This is a podcast. It says right on the thing, co-host, don't come to me. That kind of leads to what you're saying. Like there's no research. Like it's just kind of throw up and show up or spray your email to see who hits. And, maybe AI can help those sales reps hone in and figure out what the messaging should be.
Yeah. It's not maybe. It is, it has to happen because there's 6,500 SDR, companies. And so when I break it down, when you, and if you ever need that service, it's going to be the ones that, do the work first, and AI is going to do the work, and they're going to communicate to you in the right way at the right place and understand that hyper-personalized. And whoever does that best, whoever's 10% better than the next, is going to end up winning that market. It's
They're
just
gonna,
another
they're
thing.
going to separate themselves pretty quickly.
Half of the companies are going to fail by not doing this better than their competitors. You don't have to be perfect. Nobody's going to be perfect. You just have to do it better than your competitors. Be 10% better every day.
Love it. Love it. Well, Jay, we're really pressed up against time, but I wanted to thank you so much. This has been like a masterclass in channel and partnerships, and I've been a big fan. I've followed you for years, and this was just an amazing conversation. So thank you so much for being a part of the show. Is there anything you want to highlight to the audience that you're doing that you'd want them to be aware of?
No, the one thing is I'm not here to sell anything, but we're all here in the channel. We all support each other. Mm-hmm. So if you have a question on any of my numbers, or I might have touched on research that's interesting to you, we're all open. So send me a LinkedIn, send me a tweet, send me a Facebook message, send me an email. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
But if I can help, that's what we do. We help each other. Right. Partnering is all about 1 + 1 = 3.
That's it.
And if I can play traffic cop and get you to the right data or get you to the right information, I go to sleep every night with 0 inbox. So happy to help.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And for the audience, Jay is so approachable. I've shared lunch with him at an event, and I've reached out to him, and he's very responsive. So I would take him up on his offer and ask questions. He's amazing to speak with. So with that, Jay, thank you so much for joining. Jeff, thanks for co-hosting. Everybody could find us on all of the podcasting services. Our website is www.channelsurfers.com. You can reach me and Jeff at john@channelsurfers.com or jeff@channelsurfers.com. And also we have a LinkedIn page where we post on Tuesdays every release of every episode that we do. So with that, I want to thank everyone for listening. And again, Jay, amazing conversations. Can't thank you enough for being a part of this.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.